Hi there, guys. This is just a short video to help answer a few questions I get from time to time about why I do what I do, why I create a YouTube channel and a podcast of nearly 100,000 subscribers, and what's kind of motivated me to do this. And normally, there's a kind of a set wisdom in YouTubing world that one describes one's journey. You say, well, I started out as a kind of a humble history teacher, and then I left teaching, and I didn't know what to do, and I decided to set up a YouTube channel, and now I've become this international sort of YouTuber and that kind of thing. And that's not really my story. My story is something really quite different, and it is really related to the principles behind explaining history. And I don't think I've ever actually told anybody what these are. But I believe that, wherever you are in the world at the moment, if you're listening to this in Brazil or Iceland or Latvia or wherever, or even little Wales where I am, whatever culture you're in, the simple fact is that all human beings everywhere are born with an inherent need to try to make sense of the world that they live in. Now, you could say that in the 21st century now, we are actually overwhelmed, with information about the world in which we live, that we can make coherent choices about it, and some humble little history podcast really doesn't or shouldn't matter compared to all this. But I don't think we are overwhelmed with information. I would say far from it. We don't live in an information age, we live in an age of media power, and that is not the same thing. We live in an age where the means by which information can be transmitted to us is controlled and mediated by largely unelected and extremely wealthy and powerful elites. And whilst I'm not suggesting that we are constantly being indoctrinated all day, every day, though I do think a fair old bit of that is going on, what I am suggesting is that what we receive in terms of information is very often misleading. It is very often biased, although admittedly all things are biased, as all things have biases, but it is very often either inaccurate or simply meaningless, simply banal, simply the obsession with celebrity and consumerism that we are constantly inundated with. So I don't think that the human desire for information is being satiated or in any conceivable way. I think what we get is media, but that and information aren't the same thing. So you'll notice that I'm talking as if this is a current affairs podcast, and it certainly isn't. I talk about modern history, but the relationship between our current struggles around the world in places such as the Middle East or the Ukraine, or in the United States, or here in Britain, where we could not really claim to live in a society that is free from conflict. It just is slightly better massaged and hidden. These struggles all have historical antecedents. They all come from somewhere. They are not phenomena that spring out of the ground. And very often they are reported as if they are divorced from context. Like there are frightening people in the Middle East waving AK-47s and wearing balaclavas that are doing things and we don't really know why. Well, there are reasons why they're doing these things, and those reasons have long roots into the past. And to try to understand, to give context and meaning to the world in which we live, we really must understand modern history. We must understand history in general, but particularly modern history. It's extremely, extremely important. Now, there may be people out there who say, well, people live and die without ever having really grappled with any of these concepts. And indeed they do. But they are really unable to engage on a meaningful and profound level with the events that surround them, to have an opinion that is informed, to become politicised perhaps, or to become active in making change happen in the world. And if you can't do that, if you are divorced from the world in that way and lack that kind of agency, it is really a life half lived. It is a life where the simple processes of work and leisure, consumerism, watching the telly and wondering about which football team is going to win, these really these things become the basis of life. And the tragedy is that all those aspects of living have a history and a politics to them, which, in order to really kind of engage with them, need to be understood. So if you're wondering if I think everyone should be a historian, the answer is yes. Yes, I do. I absolutely believe that. And I know that for most people, it's not possible or not even conceivable that they're going to become scholars of the Russian Revolution or the general strike of 1926. So this is why I really try to do what I do. This is why I put a lot of energy and effort every week into helping people to engage with the past, because I think it is so important. And it's something that I could kind of do a little bit in the classroom. But in the classroom, everything I did was geared towards, it had to be, because of the kind of the regimentation and homogenization of education practice, and the development of kind of top-down managerial, I don't want to overuse the word fascism, but fascism, guiding teachers towards hammering out results. And this was very often at the expense of real learning. I can coach anyone to pass an exam. I can't get someone to understand the Great Depression or the relevance of the Great Depression to today's economic crisis in quite the same way. I can't coach someone through that. I can facilitate, but I can't do that. So now that I'm outside of the classroom, I've got a great deal more ability to help people connect. And it's only through connecting, it's only through creating these bonds of knowledge, and I do a tiny, 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 wispily thin, fiddly little bit of it, that civil society can really have some sort of impact and hold itself together against the changes that we are constantly being bombarded with. In the last few years of teaching, a particular parents' evening stood out for me. And it told me an awful lot about how history was seen and how history was misunderstood. A parent came and sat down at my table at parents' evening with their child and said, "What job's it going to get him?" The idea that the child was involved in this conversation at all was pretty much lost. The dad wanted to know, to the penny, what his income was going to be in about 2025. And the answer is, well, I don't know. I have no idea what job it's going to get him. And I don't even know if it will get him a job. I can't, hand on heart, tell any history students listening to this right now, pass your history A level and you'll get a fantastic job doing X, Y, Z, because I don't know. And the relationship between qualifications and employment has, in the last 10 years at least, perhaps even more, been quite fundamentally severed. So the stories you get told about, pass your exams and get nice jobs and all that kind of thing, really are kind of up in the air. But I tried to explain to this parent, and I failed. I've got to be honest with you. I failed. I tried to explain to this parent that the purpose of being a historian was kind of part of the process of living itself. It's part of the job of a historian or a history student is to process knowledge and come to judgments of their own. And that really is the challenge of growing up, in essence, to becoming an independent, critical thinker and not simply taking somebody else's or your mum and dad's word for it. Completely lost on them. So anyway, this is kind of in a roundabout way, this is my story. This is why I do what I do. And I hope you guys like it. I hope you guys appreciate it. And I hope you guys can kind of interact with me and we can help to really build Explaining History into something that's going to be really valuable for as many people as possible. So if so, and you want to be involved on some way, drop me a line, put a note in the comments box, and I'll get back to you. Take care. Bye-bye.